Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ellis County Commission meeting, Tuesday, July 4th, 2026. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if Bobby, the clerk, could call roll, please.
Commissioner Nathan Liker.
Here.
Chair Neil Younger.
Present.
Commissioner Michael Burgess.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, order of business. Anything, executive sessions, Darren?
One.
Okay. Okay, the prior minutes, everybody have a chance?
Mhm.
Okay. The consent agenda?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through G.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, anybody from the, out of the order of business wish to speak? All right, the monthly financial.
I don't have any comments.
Okay,
I have no comment.
all right. Okay, next is House Representative candidate Mark Schwanwich. Okay, okay. I knew I'd mess it up, but
Fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, very welcome.
thank you.
Thank you to the County Commission for allowing me to introduce myself. My name is Mark Shokwich. I'm running for the Kansas House, District 110. So that is Ellis County, excluding Hays and Victoria. Today, I'd like to do two things. The first one is give a little bit about my background, introduce myself to you all and to the residents of the county. Second one is review my platform and the challenges that we're facing and how I believe I could bring some much needed experience and voice to Topeka to get us some much needed resources. So the first one, I'd like to say, I've lived in Plainville, Kansas for the last 6 years, but I also grew up there. I'm also intimately connected with Hays. My family is originally from Plainville. I was born in Denver, but grew up for the first 5 or 6 years of my life until I moved to Kansas City. And after that, I came back almost every single summer to visit my grandmother. I had 3 uncles, which eventually became 2 uncles in town. And by the time I was in high school, they were deeply involved with developmental projects here in Hays and in Plainville. I've worked on the bricks. We helped work on Gellas and several of the bricks buildings downtown back in the day, and those were fantastic experiences for me. And that's one of the major things that led me to want to contribute back to the community. I eventually went off to KU, got my degree in political science and communication studies, went to Syracuse, did a master's there in communication rhetorical studies, eventually became a teacher at the University of South Carolina and worked on a doctoral program there in English, political theory, and advocacy. I also taught ethics, public and political theory. And so I'm well versed with all different levels and how government scales throughout the United States. I believe all these skills contributed to what happened during COVID, where there's a desperate need for grant writers and technical writers throughout the region. And the first project that I got roped in on was the Redbud project in Plainville. When I came back and kind of got, for lack of a better term, stuck in Plainville, because I thought I'd finished my dissertation and I'd be on an academic job somewhere. Maybe I'd wind up in Hays, maybe not, who knows. None of that happened. Everything got shut down. And as people well know, if you don't get a tenure track job within the first 2 years of graduating, especially if you're in English or public speaking, you're not getting a tenure track job. But there was a desperate need for those skills. Grant writing is an extremely intensive process. Applying for USDA grants and loans is an extremely time-intensive process and needs to be extremely detailed. When we were looking at the Redbud Development Project and we were looking at source of funds, USDA's Community Facilities Loan was the obvious choice. And so the company that was hired by the 501c3 that runs Redbud, Action Pact, hired me to do the technical writing for that project. I've worked on that off and on for the last 4 years, and that has given me insight to the entire region and the largest problem that we are facing. We only have one population that is growing in the entire 18 counties that comprise Northwest Kansas. That's those 55 plus. Once you get to about 65, you're working on about a fixed income. So what's happening across the county is that property taxes are rising. People are unable to meet the rising property taxes unless they have jobs whose wages are growing. Most places within this district are not keeping up with the rate of inflation, and wages aren't keeping up with that either. There's a few places here in Ellis County that are doing an excellent job of doing that, but if you look at Graham County, Rooks County, Norton County, and Phillips County, it's not true everywhere. It's not spread out like bread. Given the fact that the only growing population is 55 plus, we have some assets that we could be developing, but Topeka has prevented us from accessing those resources. So the first one is hospital care. Obviously, Medicaid expansion would be a really good deal. I do know that there's been $1 trillion cut from Medicaid by the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. It's actually quite an ugly bill. It will do devastating damage to rural critical access hospitals. There is a list circulating right now among Protect Our Care advocates that lists Hayes Medical as needing to reduce services within the next 2 years, and Norton County's hospital as potentially closing within the next 2 years. As hospital closures occur and the people who need medical services have to travel further, there's a likelihood that more people will lack care, will suffer, will die, or receive inadequate care. This is a huge problem across the region, and we are going to need their state government to step in with stopgaps within at least over the next 2 to 3 years before the federal government kicks in and starts reversing some of these cuts. More importantly, we also have a lack of infrastructure across aging networks. So if you're looking at, for example, Redbud in Plainville, this is an over 60-year-old facility. That facility was based on an intensive care unit. Its pipes are, we're one pipe break away from the facility closing, which would be devastating to Plainville's economy. It's one of our top 3 employers. But if you look at small towns like that throughout the district that also have nursing home facilities, they are easily one of the top 3 employers. Not only that, but they provide a critical service to keeping our elders in our communities where they want to be. But they are based on intensive care units, which is a vastly outdated model. COVID proved that household models actually work far better and keep the residents in much healthier throughout pandemic situations. These are radically differently designed, and the way that their services are distributed are much different than basing something off of a hospital. I strongly believe that the state should be supporting the construction of new nursing homes and maybe providing startup funding if we wanted to access the USDA Community Facilities Loan. That would provide a big boost to everything in the region. This would also provide competitive advantages for us to be able to attract workforce. For example, several cities and municipalities have land banks in the area. If we were to pass legislation that would enable those places to contribute Medicaid liened owned properties to that land bank, then a nursing home or a critical access hospital could purchase those properties at a reduced price and add that into a hiring program. We would obviously need state legislation in order to be able to support that, but I think that's one thing that could help us create incentives to address our workforce shortage problem beyond Medicaid expansion. More importantly, we also have the problem of property taxes. That seems to be a deterrent to getting high-quality employees in the area. I think we need to address three things when it comes to property taxes. The first one is, how do we address when we need to raise mills? Another good example of this is going to be Rooks County. I know in Plainville and I know at the county level, there's a chance we're probably going to have to raise our mills due to inflation, and that's unfortunate. We used to have a program called the Local Ad Valorem Tax Relief Program that stopped being funded in 2003 by the Republican majority and now was completely eliminated in 2025 by the Republican supermajority. This program provided general relief funds to municipalities and counties that would have otherwise kept their mill levy at the same rate and in exchange provided general funds to those municipalities in order to keep places affordable and livable. Unfortunately, that program needs to be revived, and I'd love to cast a vote in order to be able to do that. That's not the only problem, though. We need to address valuations. They're going extremely high. There's multiple contributing factors to the reason why those valuations are going high. And now they're working as a disincentive to keep the exterior of our properties up to date, which is causing further dilapidation and aging of our infrastructure, which we need to keep up to date. So what I'd like to do is propose taking a risk and revisiting how we do evaluations at the state level. The last time we did this was back in the 1980s. It's been over 40 years and our economic conditions are substantially different, so we need to do that. But the third program that no one else is actually trying to propose at this point in time is to create a sovereign wealth fund, or what's also called a permanent fund, for rural places. We need a new revenue source. With more people going on fixed income, we need to find a way of not taxing people and still getting revenue to our counties and municipalities. I believe a wealth fund would be able to do that. We could take state general funds, and then we could take different kinds of taxes from the county or the community to contribute to that fund, which would in turn distribute yearly a stable rate of return, both to the county or to the municipality that's choosing to invest into that fund. There are models for this. Texas does this with their school system. There is a county in North Dakota that won a lawsuit against a rare minerals company, and now they also have that permanent fund. As those raw minerals deplete now in that county, they will be invested in the original company, and that will continue to provide them a rate of return even after the raw minerals in that county are gone. We could do something like that with our oil taxes, for example. And there's several counties that could also do that. So there's lots of flexibility with something like a sovereign wealth fund for rural places. And I'm not locked into any particular model, but I do think that would be a great source of revenue for our counties, and I want us to start exploring that. If we had more revenue, we could be free to be able to do more things. The city of Ellis, for example, just lost a grocery store. What if we used Kensington models and had a public grocery store? Of course, we need to reestablish supply chains, but I think that would be awesome. And we won't have to, if we have something publicly owned, we don't necessarily have to deal with the same constraints that a for-profit grocery store has to deal with. These are all potential solutions. We just have to be unleashed to be able to do them and do them in a way that doesn't hurt our citizens and our residents without their wages going up. So I want to get creative, and I want to partner with you all. It would be a privilege to be able to do that. Like I said, I've done some grant writing. I've done some technical writing on various projects. If you ever want to talk about those various projects and the future that I see for the county, I'd be more than happy to talk with you and to figure out how to get that done. Technical details matter. And if I get elected and go to Topeka, I want to work with those things with you and with the residents of this county and the other people who are in the district. This is my second stop to a county commission. I went to Norton yesterday, and I'll be going to the other 3 county commissions later. The more we network together, the more we work together, the more things that we can do. Networking at this point is critical. When we had that big multi-county fire a few years ago, the biggest problem, according to the state fire service, was that we didn't have radios to communicate between different fire departments. Multiple volunteer fire departments didn't operate on the same frequencies as other fire departments. We need to be able to have the flexibility to be able to unify, to network our community services. We need to be able to share services when necessary. And we need the financial flexibility to be able to do so. So that's what I'm proposing to do in Topeka for you all. And I would like, I really appreciate the residents' votes in the future, come November. And I would also look forward to partnering with the County Commission in the future to get some serious legislation, serious work done for you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark.
Okay, next is X-Fix update, Jeff. I think I said that
Morning,
right.
Zydex.
Okay, exactly, whatever.
It's okay.
Expensive.
Yes. In May of 19th of this year, the Board of Commissioners authorized purchase order 7997 concerning the purchase of desks. As I was going through the process and looking back through the documentation, in the drawings that were submitted with the original purchase order, has to do with the monitor configuration of we have two tiers of monitors, and our lower level tier of monitors has 5 monitors wide. All the documentation I had received up to that point actually had that drawing as 4 monitors wide. And while I felt at points we had communicated and addressed that it needed to be of a specific size on that bottom tier, when we did a pre-order discussion, addressed that, they recognized that the desks that they had originally quoted were about 6 to 12 inches undersized, and again, having to do with the width and being able to mount these monitors correctly within the on the desk. Now, they did say that we could move forward as is. They would require a waiver of their warranty, as it would be exceeding outside the actual intended width of that particular desk, and then they did a rework of the layout to go to the correct size desks, which resulted in an increase of about just under $6,000 to increase the cost of the desks. There was also some cabinetry changes as that expand. I know we're talking about 12 inches per desk or 6 inches width, but a total of 12 inches, and that they took one cabinet out to resize it to make it fit correctly within the space that we have. But ultimately, that's where we're at today is requesting that I'm asking for another purchase order to increase the cost by $5,977.27 to accommodate this resizing of the 4 desks. There's also a smaller portion involved in here having to, since we identified the monitors correctly, what cables that we need to actually run that was not included. It was just ballpark guess in the original quote, and then they've correctly identified the correct monitor cables that will be needed for that run. So,
So Jeff, is this a oversight on our part on submission, or is this an oversight on their part on quoting?
I think there's a combination of both, in that all the documentation they provided me within quotes consistently showed a 4 monitor span as opposed to our needs of 5 across. And so from that aspect, I should have been more adamant of, hey, no, we need 5 across, not 4. But my interactions with them in the past, that I felt that I was communicating correctly. But again, all the documentation they showed me was consistently that their documents were for a 4 monitor span setup. So I think there's a little bit of both in there.
Okay.
Ultimately, the overall cost of these desks still remain about $20,000 less than what I'd originally projected costing the overall project. Because originally, before we had the bond project, this was intended to be in the capital project for this year. The current desks are 17 years old, roughly almost 20 years old. They were acquired in 2007, so we're coming up on 20 years. So we had budgeted about 150 as a ballpark, and we're still running under 130. So we're still considerably less than what I was originally thinking. On top of that, we did receive a quote from another company that was exceeded 200,000 for their configuration. So I feel overall we're still in the right direction, being considerably under our original target.
My quote, which specific line? Because I have the quote from whatever April pulled up to, or May. Is there a specific line, or are all the lines adjusted as far as the increase?
I don't have my copy where I went through and identified all the separate lines, but the biggest ones have to do with the 72 by 72 corners versus, and I don't have a copy of the original quote. I think they were 66 by 66. For the four.
Yeah, okay. So 72 by 72, 66 by 66.
I correct that. They were 72 by 72 originally, and we need to go to 78 by 78.
And that's the one for 65, 68, is that correct? Am I looking at that right?
Say that, pardon me?
On that 78 by 78, line 201, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
On page 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and then you have line 4.01 that corresponds to that with the roller vision is actually the actual mount itself that the monitors mount to. So you have the desks were adjusted to 78 by 78, and then they adjusted the monitor mounts to the which I think originally were the 66 by 66, and adjusted those to 72 by 72. No, I sorry, 4.01, they went to 78 by 78.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I had that at one point where I had it all side by side, and I should have brought that. I apologize.
So what's the warranty difference? I mean, because if we stick with what we have, lose the warranty, you said?
The warranty on these is 10 years on the legs. That the raising and lowering would be 10 years to maintain those. Otherwise, we'd be waiving that 10-year warranty on those. And those legs, if we go back to, what was it, 21, 22, we replaced one leg set, and they run about $7,000 to $9,000 for just a leg set. So that doesn't include the installation. I think we saved a little money by self-installing those when we did that leg replacement.
So the increase equates to essentially being able to get the warranty so that if one desk goes out, you're saving the 6,000 that you're asking for on the increase.
Correct. In my experience and visiting with our staff on the past, the leg is probably the most, the aspect that has gone out the most. And in 21, they switched leg styles. That's why we had to do a redo the whole thing, as opposed to in the years past, we were able to get just a portion, like it was just 2 legs, we could replace just the one. But since they no longer make that old style leg anymore, we had to replace the whole base system, which is, again, carrying the load and all that weight that's involved on top of the equipment that's on top of the desk, since they're adjustable height and with the monitors and stuff.
Did this company come out and do an inspection of what was, take a needs assessment, or is this an
No,
RFP that
at
we
this point,
submitted?
they've not been on site. They have gone off of drawings that I provided to them and gone off of measurements, and that is on. They're not going to do a final order. they're not going to place the final order. There's two aspects. One, though, they might bring someone out on site to verify the measurements. Two, we're also waiting on architectural drawings to confirm from the remodel to verify that what Zybex has provided us that, and forgive me, Darren, if you can help me, the name of the company that's doing the drawings. Tesserae is going to verify that what Zybex has matches with what they have on the spacing and all that ties up. And so we've been kind of waiting on Tesserae to confirm some of that placement stuff as well. But no, to answer your question, Zybex has not been on site. The measurements they've been going off have been ones that I provided them.
Okay. No, I didn't want to. I mean, if we submitted wrong information and came out wrong, that's on us. But if they quoted wrong with correct information, then I feel some of that should be on them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. And I'm about 50-50 on where that should lie. I feel in my conversations that I've been consistent on the 5, but at the same time, I didn't push back on the drawings they provided that showed the 4. So I can't blame it all on them by any regards.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's fair to put it all on me either. So
Right. Well, I'll move to approve PO 7999 for $5,977.27 for the purchase of dispatch consoles and cabinets from Zybex.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
thank you, gentlemen.
Okay,
Thank you.
before we move on here, we had a little discussion this morning on as the demand of power gets higher. Right here's a good example. Yeah, it's just, cabinetry, but I think we need to look at all our facilities for surge protection because it's anymore we get a storm, it's not just 1 or 2, 3 bowling lights.
Interesting
And it
timing
is-
on that. I actually had a communications this week from a PSAP down in southern Kansas that got struck by lightning. And so they were having just that exact conversation on what those standards are for protection, though that seems to be not an everyday occurrence by any center. But I can say all of our PCs in the 911 center are on a form of surge protection. They're on an independent UPS system. Not only do we have the generator to back up should we lose power, we also have the full building UPS system to back them up. And then each PC or each workstation on the 911 side has yet another independent UPS surge protector to help protect that equipment. So I think we're doing a lot of those steps to help address that. Unfortunately, lightning being a very extreme, I don't know if you can truly protect against a direct strike. But that's definitely something that we continue to monitor in the center.
Well, it far exceeds just the PCs anymore. PCs have been the number one, but we just approved, $120,000 worth of desks.
Correct.
Electrical
Desks that go up and down, absolutely. Yeah.
So a reassessment of what we're actually protecting probably needs to happen.
Okay.
And is this something that our insurance company will help us out on, Darren, as far as giving us a break if we protect all of our
I don't
delicate?
think they would give us any type of discount. It's kind of, and Commissioner Burgess being on the board might be able to speak to a little bit more, but I don't think they would give us any type of discount for having surge protection. I know we have coverages and I don't think we would have any exclusions of not being protected if we did have a lightning strike, but I'd have to look over the paperwork on those exclusions. Like I say, the electrical equipment we had when we had the flood down here was covered, and they approved the UPS replacement, or it's coming to the commission next week for the replacement. So I don't want to say yes, but I would be pretty confident they would cover items like that. Still, it'd be nice not to have a claim if we had the ability to spend a lot of money to put in a lot of surge protection.
Just an evaluation assessment of where we're actually protected or what we're not protected on. You know, the desks are a perfect example, and I don't know, we don't know how many other little cabinets or whatever else is plugged in that we're not protecting that, you know, $100 here adds up pretty quick in 10 different buildings.
And
So-
it's old technology. Oil field's been doing it forever. It looks like a beer can on the side, and it will blow that out. But I'm not going to say that it's
I'll have
going to
to-
help.
I can double check with Zybex. I know the
completely?
current desks include, came with the cabinetry was electrical, like surge protector outlets that you intended to plug everything into that, and that would plug into the wall. So I think that's actually part of the Zybex product, and so I'll verify that with them to give you some guidance on that to help on the ease of mind. But I know the existing desks we've got, they're not UPSs, but they're definitely surge protectors that are built in to the bottom of the desk, and that's what everything gets plugged into, like our wireless radio adapters that the dispatchers that connects into the phone and the radio system, and all the electronics that we have there all kind of plug into those surge protectors. But again, those are actually part of the cabinetry, so I can verify that they're using the same approach on these desks, but I don't have any reason why they would not.
Okay, because, you know, we're getting ready to spend a bunch of money on the law enforcement too, and that's something we may want to look at. Anything's going to help us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay. The Access Transportation Task Force, Darren?
Good morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. As the Commission is aware, at one of your June meetings, when outside agencies come in to present their budget request to the County Commission, a good discussion or lengthy discussion was held with Access Transportation on their changes of service due to the lack of funds and changes that may be coming in the future of what public transportation they may be able to provide. And at that meeting, it was discussed to possibly form a task force through different, the city, the county, and some other organizations within the area to join together on a task force to try to figure out some of those needs and maybe how to do things different and continue with their service. And since then, that task force has been discussed, and it was requested that one of the county commissioners be a part of that task force. So that's why it's on your agenda this morning to see which one can be voluntold or asked or volunteer of the three of you to be a part of that if you would like. And then I can let Mr. Michaud know at DS and Wade Cruz with Access, let them both know who you would like to participate.
Don't everybody jump at once.
I have no problems getting onto that
Okay.
and helping with that.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Unless somebody else wants it more than I do, but I have no problems volunteering for that.
You can have that.
Yeah. I guess you can put my name down and we'll submit that.
I'll let Jerry know.
Okay. Thanks again, Commissioner Liker.
Mhm.
Okay, next up is the 2027 county or commission budget. Darren?
As we do each year, as we start digging through the budget, as you know, today is your second review of or second draft of the budget, as well as your first view of the capital budget. But a part of that each year, we always look at the commissioner's budget together as well, your budget. And today it's sitting in here in your agenda, and I didn't know if there was anything that the commission may think that you would like to add, remove, reduce, change within your budget to do anything different in 2027 than we are this year. And this will be part of the next 2 days' budget discussions with all the department heads and elected officials. So if there's nothing necessarily today, we can discuss it more tomorrow. If you want more details into something, I can pull up reports and provide that with you tomorrow as well.
I mean, for the most part, we're keeping it flat like we've asked all of our other departments to do. So at this point in time, I see no changes go today. We can discuss more tomorrow, I guess.
One thing that will be able to change in 2028 is the rural opportunity zone, as the commission knows, has changed. We were not included several years ago, then we were included, and now we're excluded again. So even with that change, we had to continue to fund those that were approved through the process, and through the end of 2027 should be the last year. And then we'll be able to remove that as well.
Mhm.
So that would be some savings in the following year's budget for you.
And just as a note, the scholarships that are in here, there is a line item for a sales tax transfer that offsets that scholarship. So there are no property tax dollars used on that.
That is correct.
What's included in our dues and memberships?
So those will be your KLPG, Kansas Legislative Policy Group, which is a lot of Kansas counties in western Kansas that form together. We have several meetings, spring and fall, and then in coordination with the Kansas Association of Counties events. That also includes your Kansas Association of Counties membership, which, you know, we all attend many of their meetings. That includes it did include NACO, National Association of Counties. We did pull out of that in this year. That's a very minimal expense. It includes the League of Kansas Municipalities, which is one of the smaller ones as well. NACO was the smallest one, and there might be one more, but I can't remember I believe we pay the county attorney or the county councilors membership to the Kansas County Attorneys Association, if I said that right.
And the professional fees for 15,000.
Those are for attending the KAC conferences, your registrations, your hotels, your transportation, KAC conferences, KLPG conferences, or any other meetings or conferences that the commission attends throughout the year.
Does that include the DC trip?
Includes Washington DC, correct?
Yeah.
And I believe we might include some of the fees in there for our annual retreat if we have the funds in there. I usually use that between the county commissioner's budget and the county administrator's same line item. When I say retreat, that's, you know, we're not going to Jamaica. The retreat in an all-day meeting that the county commission meets with all the elected officials and department heads to go over strategic planning, projects, budgets, and ideas to work through over the next year or two.
And the employee incentives is for our employee appreciation barbecue that we put on and other things that we do at the holiday party and such.
That is part of it. The biggest, probably 90% of that is what we use to buy chamber checks through the Hayes Chamber of Commerce to provide the annual service incentives for the years of service in February.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll scrutinize it more here in the next couple of days. I think for now, works for me anyway.
Yeah. Okay, you're up again.
Okay, moving on to the overall budget. This is as I stated before, this is your second view of the overall operating budgets. That's for many budgets other than just the general fund, but as the commission knows, that's the most heavily focused on. What it does include, just I don't want to go over all these numbers because I know everybody gets glazed over, but the estimated county valuation for Ellis County based off the current estimates in June from the November 26 abstract only had increase in valuations of 0.2%. That 0.2% only equates to about $650-ish of increased valuation per mill, or total with our overall mill of 38s. That's 38 mills. It's only about $26,000 in growth that we would be able to stay if we were to stay essentially neutral with our budget. So 0.2% valuation growth, but you have 5% inflation currently. So that's 25 times what we are actually at with our valuation growth. We're projecting, as some of these items in here, 7% increase in property or health insurance. We had a very good turnout with Wage and Benefits Committee meeting yesterday. Blue Cross Blue Shield was here, as well as FCMI, looking at the different options between what Senate Bill 20 is going to do with the change of prescriptions to the price of insurance with Blue Cross and Blue Shield potentially coming up with our renewal. Our rates for loss are lower than years previous, so that's going to help us. We discussed the information that's out there of Hayes Med Center negotiating with Blue Cross on new rates. We looked at United Healthcare and Aetna for additional quotes as well. So they're going to be busy over the next couple of months looking over different options and proposals, which we'll receive in mid to late September on what that may look like. We did 10% increase on property, vehicle, and liability insurance with K-Camp. Had a good conversation with Commissioner Burgess on that. Hoping that might come down with some changes in the future, but for now, feel it's best to keep it at that 10%. We can always change it in the coming months. The budget does include, as the commissioner remembers, the court-appointed attorneys with the 23rd Judicial Court did a salary adjustment, or they had a salary request to the county commission 2 years ago or last year, but this is the first year of the 2 years that we did an implementation of that. Instead of doing it all at once, we tried to split it over 2 years. So this does include that second year in 2027 for those salary adjustments for them. At this point, bond payments that we've talked about, that we just discussed with the desk purchase there, it does show that these bond payments are not impacting property tax. They're not in the general fund. There's no property taxes levied for them. They're used out of reserves to pay for those at this point. As we've discussed many times in many meetings, the first 2 years of those property taxes are coming from, first 2 years of those bond payments are coming out of reserves that we've saved up for some of those projects. The next 2 years are used out of the sales tax reserves that we've been saving up over the last 6 years. And then after that, one of the debt payments will be removed because it'll expire, and then it'll offset the bond payment from there on using sales tax. So that's still the point within your budget on those bond payments. And like I say, emphasizing they are not impacting any changes that this budget shows to you on property taxes. The downside to this, I guess a little bit more besides the 7 and 10% increase, is we do have an increase in interest. Most people usually think decrease in interest rates are always good. For us, that's not necessarily the case in regards to the investments we have in the banks. And with the decrease in interest rates, we're losing about $300,000 estimated in revenue. And if you don't make a $3,000 cut in services somewhere, you end up having a $3,000 loss in revenue that has to be offset by another form of revenue. In this case, property tax or sales tax, etc. The oil and gas depletion funds is the last year that we can keep those reserved without the possibility of maybe the state clawing those back or sitting there idle because they're sitting there idle with no purpose. So there is just over $425,000 left in that fund, and we set that in as a transfer every year, and we've kept it. We've not transferred it for the last 6 years, just for the fact that when there is a bad year, we would be able to transfer it over, so that way there wasn't such an impact on property taxes. But this is in 2026. It was budgeted based on on the auditor's recommendation that we can't leave that sitting there anymore. So that's a loss of another $400,000 in revenue. It does include the salary adjustments per policy. The COLA for next year is not included in the overall each individual budget. That's completely separate. So that's not part of that. It does not include any staffing changes in regards to employment of how many employees we have. It's the same level of staffing. Transfers to reserves are essentially the same. There's minor changes on a couple departments, but there's not an increase. And it does include the full requested amount of the outside agencies such as Access Transportation, DSNWK, the Care Council, Grow Hayes, all of those as well. And that was at a tune of just over $1.33 million, I believe, on the outside agency requests. So moving on a little bit, talked about some items that we probably need to discuss over the next couple of days. Of those with conversations of the commissioners to consider is the outside agencies and One of those being that access transportation workforce or task force and what that may turn to. The sheriff's office is going to, it's been on the books for several years, but just as a reminder of the need, the idea, and the explanation is the look at consideration of additional detention officers for the jail. I think it's at this point possibly just for discussion, not necessarily a request, but to continue to inform the commissioners on that need of additional staffing. And then this has been on there for several years, but eventually we're going to be forced to have some type of facilities maintenance person that he's going to take care of the fairgrounds out there for all that property. But moving on to the other budgets, you see the fire department district is only a $1,200 increase, which from the previous year before. As I remind the commission every year, the general fund is only of the revenue that we receive for the general fund, only about 6 to 7% of that is from oil in the county. But when you look at the fire district fund, it's almost about 25% of that valuation is impacted by oil. So the fire district's fund is impacted a lot heavily when the oil sinks in price. So the county valuation for the fire district actually decreased from 26 to what's projected for the 2027 budget. Like I said, it's a decrease of 4.5%. Solid waste budget is the other enterprise fund. As a reminder, this is not sales tax dollars at all that goes to that fund. This is paid for revenues are collected in that fund for those services that are used out there when you drop off your trash, municipal, solid waste, construction debris, metal, tires, all of that. The budget itself is still essentially, if taking one piece out, it is a balanced budget for 2027. However, in 2027's budget, we are going to add an additional $500,000 to that budget from the unencumbered cash, which is roughly at this year $1.2 million. So that would reduce that for the 2028, which still won't impact services, won't increase any fees that are needed for the solid waste transfer station out there. But what that $500,000 is for the estimate of the expansion of the transfer station for additional storage of waste as they hold it and transport it down to Garden City, as well as the expense of a replacement of backhoe. Instead of leasing it and not paying that interest, just use the reserves to pay cash for it outright. As well as the concrete, as the commission saw in your road tour, the concrete in that transfer station is being ate down into and rebars popping up. So replacing that concrete as well in the transfer station. With that, the next 2 days, July 15th and 16th from 8:30 till about 1 or whenever the commission is done each day, we'll have budget hearings. The agendas have been posted of which department head or elected official will be with the commission for the next 2 days to discuss all the budgets. And with that, I will take any questions.
I have none at this time for you.
Me either, tomorrow and the next day.
I think the main goal here for this one is just to get the
Sure.
budgets back out on the agenda so that way the public can see where we're at, the progress, the changes, as well as this is it is an update of the operating budget, but it is the first round of getting the capital budgets included in there as well for the public to see. And yeah, I fully understand the next 2 days will be a lot more of the pencil work throughout the budget.
Right now, Darren, as it stands, what is our difference from where I guess, what's our deficit? I can't remember where that is.
Yeah, I kind of have the same question. What's the change in the overall budget increase?
What's the
Essentially,
magic
we're
number that
starting
everybody
way
wants
up.
to know?
I mean, we're seeing $700 and some thousand worth of lost revenue, so that obviously has to be made up or not. Right?
So if nothing were to change, this kind of gets into the next agenda item of the revenue neutral rate that we have to vote, that the commission needs to vote on today because it needs to be turned in by the county clerk's office by July 20th, which is before next week's meeting. But the revenue neutral rate, essentially what that does is it says that to stay revenue neutral, if you collect X amount of tax dollars in 2025 for the 2026 budget, you collect that same dollar amount in 2026 for the 2027 budget. The way the budget sits now, and also just to emphasize, this is a draft. There's several more rounds. All the heavy cutting or changes is coming for us in the next essentially month and a half, as there's several more meetings. But the way it sits now, the estimate on this draft changes the mill levy. I'm not gonna go down to the thousandths of a percent here, but 38.1 to 40.7. So that's a 2.6 mil increase, which equates to just approximately $1.497 million in additional taxes, without any, like I say, any future cuts in the next month and a half. And since I'm on that, and while you're, I know I shared this all with the commission last week in individual emails, so that way you could see all the budgets and all the numbers as well. But this does include the R&R, that next agenda item for the R&R, the revenue neutral, is kind of one of those discussions on making that decision today. The recommendation is, for me to the county commission, is that we ask the commission to vote to exceed the revenue neutral rate. However, that does not mean that we will or that we have to. It just allows you over the next month and a half to exceed it. If you vote not to exceed it, you will be forced to cut that full 1.497 million. But if the commission does vote to exceed it, you could whittle all that way down to, let's just say, $100,000 in additional taxes. And so it doesn't lock you into anything. It just allows you that ability to exceed it, but it also sets the rate so that way when the county clerk sends out the revenue neutral rate hearings, we're transparent to the public that this is what's happening. Here's our budget hearing, the date, the time, the location, and the estimates of what the revenue, the R&R rate is, the mill levy rate, and the taxes are.
And just for clarification, we have no control over the rising cost of insurance or inflation rate for our products that we purchase.
Yeah, I think that's one of the common misconceptions, that we are a government. We have a lot more purchasing power maybe than us individually. But for the most part, we may get a little bit better rates than the consumer does because we have the ability in time to negotiate fuel rates, buy it in bulk. But we're a service organization, so 60 to 65% of our budget is salaries. A lot of that is, and the other big portion of that is commodities or contractual services that we actually get. So those are computer system equipment to manage our finances, to manage the taxes that we collect, the way Public Works tracks their road systems, how we hire, evaluate our employees, how we do all their payroll. All those different services are the next biggest chunk of our budget. And technology is increasing in price every single year. We just talked about it, the price of adding surge protection to protect that technology. But when you're locked into those services, there's usually, I mean, some of those items I know are going up they're estimating us to project up to 7% increases on some of those contractual services that we have. And also not really within our control, but you can't have, you have to have a financial management system. You have to have all those softwares and technologies to help, not doing it all in pencil and paper.
I guess where I'm going with that is most of the increase that we're going to be seeing and looking at is a lot of it is out of our hands, other than just to keep the employees and pay the interest and the insurance that's going up with it. So, to sit here and, I guess from my standpoint, to sit here and say we can cut, over the past 3 to 4 years, we've worked very diligently to cut any extra fat out of it and try and build back some of this stuff that's been lacking for years. So it's going to be really hard.
I
The
will
other
say,
tough part with insurance is we won't really know until after we pass the budget. That's kind of the thing. We're kind of guessing, with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I mean, there's a couple different things with that. One, we won't know what the premiums, the final is until after the budget, but two, we have the question of if there's, do we stay with them if Hayes Med potentially doesn't accept them? Then we gotta weigh that as far as how that impacts our employees. K-Camp, yes, sit on that board, very similar. We fully expect, we've done a lot of work this year to see premium decreases. We've switched reinsurance companies, which should give us a good savings into 2027. We're also pooling starting next year with Arkansas, so it's a larger pool, which will give us some savings, but we won't know those until the reinsurance gives us the final quote, probably November or December. But we have to pass a budget before we know what those savings are. And I expect property and casualty for sure will go down, but liability is the one that really probably will not. But yeah, we have to do a little bit of guesswork and hope that we budget appropriately with an increase, and then kind of cross your fingers that it comes in lower, but you have to budget that. And we could incur those savings next year, but we have to budget to potentially have the tax increase just so that way it's there. Because if you under budget, you're in a lot of trouble.
Another idea with the, that I didn't mention on the health insurance is the FCMI is also looking at doing self-funded option for us as well next year, is not knowing where that's going to come out. The difficulty, as Commissioner Burgess said, with the health insurance is our renewal rates aren't given to us until after the first full week of September, which is September 8th is when the commission votes to approve the budget. That could be something, I kind of mention this every year, we could change our renewal date, but to do that, to prepare for that, we would have to budget for an increase the following year. So in this budget for 2027, we would have to increase the amount budgeted for health insurance by roughly 33% more to move our renewal rate up several months. So that way, when we got our early renewal, we would have those numbers in mid-year instead of in late September. So doing that, no matter what company comes in lowest bid, we would have to change. So that way, instead of budgeting for 12 months of health insurance per employee, it would be up to 15 or 15%, or 15 months instead of 12, sorry. And luckily, over the last 3 years, we've only had, I think they said last year was 3.4, 3.3%, which helps in the overall budget because in mid-year COLAs, we remove all that budget authority out, so that way it's not being spent or as part of the individual county budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's about like Eugene. He's above him to do the evaluations. It's a thing. He works for the county, but everybody can't put it on him. And that's same as what Commissioner Liker said. It's above us here that everything goes up.
No. Well, I'll move to approve the attached revenue neutral rate letters to be signed and completed by the county administrator, to be sent to the Ellis County clerk, to exceed the revenue neutral rates for the 2027 budget year for the general and fire funds, department funds, I guess.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
For clarification, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you before you got started. Use the rates that are proposed in here of the 40.717 mils and the 4.398 for the fire, and the estimated taxes for that as well. And then we'll cut down from there over the next month and a half. Correct?
I would say yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
I think that's a good, we started where we need to start. We got the budget out for the public. We're above revenue neutral. That's where the next couple days, specifically as we go through budget, again, the public is more than welcome to, it's a public meeting, attend. And the public's more than welcome to get a hold of us as commissioners over the next month and a half and give us their thoughts. I would encourage them to give us specific thoughts on, not just a broad cut to, cut the budget, more specific on areas that maybe the public doesn't feel are, need to be as funded as heavily. Because just saying cut the budget is, I think we do a good job of that every year, trying to make sure we maintain a budget that provides the services that our community expects. So that would be my encouragement to the public.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Because come in now and still wait until the last minute and then come in. So come give us your thoughts.
I would add one more thing. I actually just thought of this. I don't know why I didn't put it in here, but just in case it gets asked by the commissioner, or if anybody in the public, with where we're at now with the solar development project west of town, that's an estimated $1.1 million in additional revenue that county will receive. That's nowhere in the 2027 budget, obviously, because that $1.1 million payment would be made the year following when they go live, when they actually start producing and putting power onto the ITC transmission line. So that's estimated not until 2029 when we would start receiving that revenue if they complete the project, continue to move forward with the project. So that is nowhere in any of these documents. Nothing is impacted or included by that contribution agreement amount of 1.1 million.
Okay, county administrator report.
I can go over more numbers if you want. Otherwise, I'll let you be.
Okay. County commissioner reports.
I have no report at this time.
I did attend K-Camp. We had an annual retreat held at Milford for 2 days last week, Wednesday and Thursday, and lots and lots of discussion on insurance premiums and how to help our county members. A couple different areas. One big area we discussed was our investment policy. We got millions of dollars invested in different areas and reviewed that. Again, to use those investments to help offset premium increases. The other big area that was interesting to me was a long discussion on procedures for sheriff departments, especially intake and outtake. That's where the largest liability comes. And just looking at best practices throughout the sheriff departments and making sure those are implemented. So that way, again, the best way to lower premiums ultimately and help taxpayers is prevention, making sure things don't happen. So that way lawsuits don't happen. So good half-day, long discussion on just sheriff department procedures. Very interesting to me. And then attended a Platinum Group at a swim party Sunday night. Had an invitation to go to that. Took kids there. Enjoyed that. I appreciate they roasted a pig. It's very fun. So that's my report.
Okay. Since you brought up the safety and I've had this discussion with Darren a little bit, that out in the field, our people are the same thing. I mean, we gotta protect them. So I have asked Darren if some of the little small accidents that we have had are affecting our insurance, and it's just going to be a matter of time that they're going to probably start looking at those. So if we can, be careful and get our people aware of stuff like Mr. Burgess said, will help us out in the long run. We got to help ourselves no matter what, and in everything we can. So
Yeah, you get the news, there's, across the country, and it happens in Kansas too, you get these, multi-million-dollar lawsuits out of the sheriff's department from a very hyped up thing, but those are still very, very rare. The thing that occurs the most is these $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 lawsuits that, every county kind of faces. And when you have 85 counties, I think are under on K-Camp, 50,000 per county or 100,000 per county adds up to a lot of liability. So, I also want to mention the Ellis County Fair starts today, so make sure to go out and support 4-H and the Ellis County Fair and enjoy. Should be a nice week in the 90s, so go out and enjoy that.
I did attend the City of Hayes meeting. Also went with Darren and Scott and toured the renovation of the sheriff's office. So a lot of room, and Darren and Scott both. There's a lot of area there, but it's all utilized and going to be nice when it's done. So and also everybody go take part of the fair. So that's all I have, and we do have one executive session.
Okay. I'll move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session for 15 minutes under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception. Subject to be discussed during the executive session is pending litigation. Open session will resume at 9:50 in the commission chambers. Those in attendance, in addition to the Board of County Commissioners, are Bill Jeter and Darren Myers.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Thanks, everyone, for coming. No decisions were made. Adjourn at 9:54.
See you, Bill. Thank you.
See ya.